I'm Will Richards, and this is The Dash, an insight to the success story of people from all walks of life in their chosen field, from your average Joe to people in the limelight. If you're looking to level up, stick with us. This just might help. Gerry,
Hello,
how
mate.
are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. How are you doing?
Very good. Thank you very much for coming on.
Not at all. Thanks
It's
for
good
having
to
me.
have you here, mate. It's good to have you here indeed. It's the first time I've had a comedian on the podcast. Very much
Hopefully
looking
not
forward
the
to
last.
it. Hopefully not the last. Depends how well this goes for you and for me. But yeah, so look, we understand that you're a comedian. You've done stand-up for a number of years now. How many years is it in total?
22.
22. So you started in your 20s.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. It's going really well. You are. I found out about you because a while back, you might remember this. I put out a reach on social media asking for people to come forward with suggestions for stand-up comedians because there was originally going to be a comedy show in Chelmsford, another one. And you were mentioned by, I think, your own daughters, but also a number of other people. Yeah. So you become very popular. And ever since then, I've been looking into your stuff, and you are the go-to guy for comedy. And it's great to have you on here. So I think I want to start with how on earth everyone that might want to get into comedy, everyone that might want to sort of start, what do you do? Do you just tell jokes and carry on, or?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a different journey. I guess if I was advising someone who wanted to get into it, the most common route, I guess, is just simply doing the open circuit. You know, there's lots and lots of comedy nights around all over the place,
right? And
there are many, many open circuits. Open spots whereby you just go along and you do 5 minutes, don't get paid for it. You just get a chance to try your stuff out. That's how most people do it. Other people actually go on courses, and they'll do a course for a period of time.
Like a comedy course?
Comedy course.
Right,
yeah, a lot of people do that. But I think they're the main two routes. Mine was slightly different in that I didn't do either of those things.
Right.
So I had a full-time job and I never wanted to be a comedian. So it wasn't.
This is starting to make a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go from the top then. Where did it all start for you wanting to get into comedy? Because I appreciate you didn't have that goal initially.
No, I liked comedy, but it was never a plan of mine. I worked in media for many, many years,
right.
Magazines and newspapers. And when I was working for Mirror Group newspapers in the early 2000s, there was a secretary there who worked on the People. And she had a friend who worked for David Baddiel's company, Avalon.
Right.
And they used to have a little open mic competition. So anyway, this girl obviously thought I was a bit of a smart ass around the office, you know. So I think she thought she'd teach me a bit of a lesson. So she said, "Oh, you think you're funny? Try this out."
Right.
So she gave me this entry form for a competition. Now, because it was bravado, obviously I said, "All right then."
Yeah, of course.
I didn't really think I was going to do it, you know what I mean? But I just filled it in, sent it off. Again, didn't think anything would happen. But then I get a date back.
Right.
So I'm thinking, oh gosh, you know, so... Well, I think they maybe said send in a little clip or something. So maybe I just recorded a joke or a couple of jokes sent in. Then they came out and gave me a date for a night. I was going to do this competition.
And you've gone, oh, shit.
That's exactly what it was. I honestly, and even then I still wasn't really going to do it. You know what I mean? I thought something will happen. I'll get out of this.
Yeah.
But between not doing it and doing it, all of a sudden there I was with a carload of people driving to Cambridge. To do this 7 minutes of comedy that I'd written, you know.
So you travelled up with other comedians, or
no, just friends
that was going to support you?
Yeah.
That's good to have an immediate network straight away.
Well, it was but I mean, it was just so the nerves. Honestly, it was. I just can't begin to explain. I've never boxed professionally, but or any sort of that sort of fighting. But I always think how Imagine when you're at that level, or any level actually, of fighting.
Yeah.
I'm having to fight at the best of times. It's quite upsetting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In front of a load of people.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the nerves when those guys do the ring walk or whatever. And as I've not done that, but that's the closest comparison.
Yeah.
You know, going on sitting backstage, the other comedians are on and you're waiting and you're on next. You know what I mean? And the fear is, oh Christ, it's.
But I'm going to presume that the fear is overridden by the reward, because you've gone from saying, I don't want to be a comedian.
Yeah.
Not necessarily saying, like, guys, just so you know, I don't want to be one.
Yeah.
But it's never been an outlook of yours.
No, absolutely.
You've gone to Cambridge. You've done your first show, which went well.
Yeah, it went quite well. Yeah,
right.
well, it went well. Yeah.
Got a few laughs.
Yeah, exactly.
Which
literally,
is...
as soon as you're there, it's like shitting yourself. You do your first gag, obviously you got your opening gag or whatever. Mine was a visual gag actually,
right.
And just got a massive laugh immediately. And the moment that's done, suddenly the nerves go, your whole physiology changes. You know what I mean? You relax into it, and and then bang, 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 and,
Yeah.
and you're golden. And yeah, oh God, it was wonderful. It was absolutely, absolutely wonderful. And because obviously that's your first time, so no one knows how you're going to be. You know, in fact, most people actually think you're probably going to be shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the fear, isn't it? Someone you know is doing that. You start at the worst case. Sort of last, you know, you think, right, they're going to be shit, and anything better than shit is a win. You know what I mean? So if they're quite good, it's like, you know. So yeah, so I did it. It was weird though, on the way home. So I had the car load. We're all going back, and they were all telling me how good I was. And it was the weirdest feeling I had because it was split between, obviously I was elated, but there was also this feeling of, dread isn't the word, but sadness. I wanted them to shut up.
Right.
They were telling me how good I was, but I don't know if it was imposter syndrome. I didn't believe it or whatever. I thought they were lying. I don't know, but I really wanted them all to shut up. I became quite introverted, and it just gave me a sneak peek at that time into the minds of celebs, you know, comedians, pop stars. Do you know what I mean? That sort of the other side of it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I understand.
Weird feeling.
It might be, I see this a lot with people, it might be when you have a subconscious decision to make because you've come away from not wanting to do something, doing well, like everyone's singing your praises, and you go, shit, hang on a minute. If you're saying I'm good at this, subconsciously you're going, I've got to do this.
That's it.
And I didn't want to. I didn't want to be a comedian. Maybe I've got it wrong. Then you start doubting yourself for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my next question to you. You've done well. You're on the way back. Your praises are being sung. Understandably, you want to be like, come on, all right, yeah, cheers, I've heard it, it's good. Anyway, where are we going for dinner or whatever it's going to be, you know? Cut off of me, let's talk about everything else but me. So at what was the turning point for you to go, well, let me give it a go again?
Yeah. I can hardly remember. I know kind of what I did in that having done it, I thought I'd just do some more competitions. It's funny because I was mentioning people doing the open circuit. I didn't want to do that for some reason because I was still frightened of it. And I figured, in my head anyway, if I'm doing competitions, if you're doing no one expects you to be good. You're not making as big a statement. When you're actually on the open circuit, you are sort of saying, I am a comedian having a go.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cowardly almost of me to not do that. Instead, just do competitions where there was no expectation. And then when I was winning them or doing well in them, it was always like, it was more of the victory was bigger somehow because I hadn't said anything. It's a bit like, I used to dance, a bit like being a dancer, dancing in the corner quietly on your own. Yeah. And then people spotting you, think, God, he's good. Rather than going out into the middle and making the statement I'm good by being
I
in the
reckon
middle.
I'm good. What do you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was that's kind of how I did it, you know, and it worked for me.
So you've gone from not wanting to do the first competition, going to another competition. So that's quite key to point, is what you just said. You went for something that was going to suggest that you were kind of hoping to be found or looking for some form of recognition, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, because you didn't want to confirm yourself, I know I'm good, so I'm going to go again.
Exactly.
You're saying, right, okay. So what was the third one? Was it a competition again?
Again, it was all competitions. I did a few competitions before I ever did my first gig, and I don't remember. Well, actually, no, I do remember the first actual gig I did. So I'd done a few competitions. Then there's a guy on the circuit, a very well-known guy called Jeff Whiting, who's got a company called Mirth Control.
Right.
And they give a lot of comedians their first start. And basically, if you've got a car and you're not bad, then you'll get a gig with them.
Right.
And I didn't know this at the time.
Right.
I was flattered at the time.
Okay, yeah. Turns out you just could drive, mate.
I was willing to drive to Plymouth with two other comedians.
Yeah.
So, basically, I don't know how he found me or whatever, but somehow this guy did. And, so he offered me a gig in Plymouth. I've never been to Plymouth. Have you been to Plymouth?
No, I don't think so, no.
Mate. So I knew Plymouth was quite a way away. You know?
Right.
I've been up north many times for various reasons, and everyone knows the north is a long way away because it's the shape of our country, right? But you don't realise how far Plymouth is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Honestly, so anyway, I picked up these comedians. Again, I'm nervous because it's my first proper gig. Picked up the comedians. One of them smelled bad, which is a whole nother
nightmare. No one, windows open on the way.
Stinking my car out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jesus Christ. But, he's a pro, they're pro comedians, so there's a certain amount of respect I've got for them.
Yeah.
I'm just,
you might be funny, but you stink, mate.
You stink, mate. Really did stink. Get down. Anyway, so I'm driving to Plymouth, and my wife rang me, or I rang her, or whatever. She must have rang me, and I was at Stonehenge at the time.
Right.
And so she goes, "Oh, you're doing all right? How you doing?" And so she goes, "Where are you? Are you nearly there?" So I said, "Yeah, I'm nearly there." I was at Stonehenge, and this other comedian, Nick Doody, said to me, "No, you're not nearly there." And I thought they were taking the piss out of me. You know, it's a new company. I'm like, no, seriously. I said, no, really, you're not nearly. You've got about the same journey again.
Oh my God.
Plymouth it's like 5 hours. Couldn't believe how far it was, mate. But anyway, so I got there, yeah, and so I was the middle spot. So what they do is, the way it works is, you have an MC on many bills. You have an MC, Act 1.
Yeah.
Then you'll have a middle spot who is on a pro bill. You might have all headliners. On a gig like that, on a more established bill, you might have all headliners. But on a bill like that, you'll have a good actors Act 1, and you have the headliner. In the middle, they'll stick someone new.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I was on that night, doing
Right.
10 minutes in the middle. And I had a great middle spot. I really did have a great, to the point where...
It went really well, or just the audience were there, or?
Both, yeah, the audience were with me. They laughed. There was no dull moment. It was just great. So I felt like the top man on the day, you know what I mean?
Right, okay.
I just how I felt.
I can see it in your face. You still...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a buzz, mate. And people afterwards sort of come up. Some one of these comedians, I love the adulation, I admit it.
Now you do, though.
Yeah, I've always loved the adulation.
Right, okay.
I've always loved that. We'll get into that, but yeah, we'll talk about that because of psychological reasons. But I've always loved that. So people come up afterwards, oh, mate, you could have headlined, you could have, blah, because they know, comedy savvy people know the middle's 10-minute spot is the new guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And so people will come up and blowing smoke up my arse, and it's just a wonderful feeling. You know? It's addictive.
So that was kind of almost one of the turning points for you to go, do you know what, I'm pursuing this now.
Yeah, exactly.
This is it, Was Plymouth one of the first gigs that you'd said, right, it's not a competition, I'm going to be a comedian?
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
With a big smelly geezer?
Yeah, with a big smelly geezer.
He's watching this.
Yeah, I mean, if you are, if you don't smell it, well, hopefully you don't smell anymore, mate. You know what I mean? Because it's not a permanent thing, is it, smelling? It's something you can do something about, and hopefully you have.
Yeah, what's his full name? He won't watch it. Anyway, so you mentioned that obviously you're a massive fan of the adulation. It's a psychological thing for you, obviously. Listen, I'm not a stand-up comedian. I am something to discuss with you after. I am actually in the process of writing a stand-up comedy set for myself.
Okay.
Which I will talk to you about afterwards, because it's something that, not dissimilar to you, like you had the flyer from your colleague. People have said, why don't you do that? Why don't you? But I'm of the moment, I make inappropriate jokes because of the topic, right?
Yeah, sure.
But so it's difficult, as you know. It's difficult, right? So I do it because I love making people laugh. I love the nice side of attention. I don't want people to berate me with compliments, but I love people going, that's so funny, and I love so what is it for you? Because I know there's always a deep dive into this brain of ours.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is quite deep, what I'm going to talk about, but a little bit of my upbringing here. I don't know if you know anything about but so I've
seen a bit on you done on a stand-up, a recording of his stand-up. I didn't know if it was a piece or it was the truth, but go on. Yeah.
So it is partly true. So I was fostered. So parents came over from Ghana in the 60s, moved into sort of West London. I was born in Lambeth. I'm not even sure why I was fostered, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, I was fostered not far from here as it goes, relatively, a little village called Tolsbury.
Yeah.
So white foster family, or white foster parents. It was just me. So I was the only, or one of very few, black faces in the area, as you can imagine. Back then, this was the late 60s, early 70s. So where am I going with this? And I was always, I was quite popular. I'm not gonna, I had a fantastic upbringing. I was quite popular. But what I didn't have was, firstly, I'm a straight guy. I was a young boy. I liked girls, and they all liked me, but they didn't fancy me. Do you know what I mean? So, and part of that, one of them did tell me once, and it's quite a sweet story, really. There was this girl, and I used to escort her to parties when we were kids, like 6, 7, 8, whatever. Get me a little bow tie on, and I'd go and pick her up, and her mum, and we'd walk down the road, take the parties. And so as we got a little bit older, maybe now we're sort of 11 or whatever, I asked her to be my girlfriend, And she said, and I quote, she said, I would, but I can't because you're black. She said, and
fucking hell, right, okay.
And she said,
you forget these things happen. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and we're 11. Do you know what I mean? So there's no malice on her part.
It's innocency, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. She said, and she went to qualify it. She said it's because everyone would tease us, and that, which they probably would. And believe it or not, I wasn't upset about that because I understood her reasoning. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Had she just said no, or no because you're ugly, then I'd have been upset.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? But I kind of, even then, I kind of understood. But where I'm going with this is, so for all I had a wonderful upbringing, I always wanted to be, there were still times, racism, blah, blah, blah. I didn't get a lot of it, right? But I was quite gobby and I was quite leery, but there's always times, right? And sometimes when you're not around people, people don't know you. So I've been on buses, skinheads at the back, giving it, whatever. There've been times. And I remember always thinking, if I was somebody, you wouldn't dare to say that. Do you know what I mean? If I was somebody, because even then there was still, you've got black celebrities, you got this. No one spoke to them like that because they were somebody. So deep down in me, I always wanted to be inverted commas somebody. So regardless of my difference, I'm somebody. I'm Gerry K. So that girl would have gone out with me, regardless of the fact I was black. She wouldn't have gone out with me because I'm Gerry K. So that didn't matter. These guys who are giving it wouldn't be giving it because I'm Gerry K. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
So that was the foundation of everything I've done, from being a dancer when I was a footballer and blah blah blah. All those things. So I've always wanted to be somebody. Somebody. Yeah. So that was. Yeah,
do you recognise now that you are somebody?
No, no.
Because we do.
That's very kind. I mean, I'm half a somebody. I'm a somebody on the night. You know what I mean? We used to joke about this. So, used to do jonglers, weekenders, and still do weekenders for clubs, right? And they're often held in nightclubs, Liquid and Envy nightclubs, places like that. So you go somewhere like Leeds, for example, and you do your gig. The gig went from 8 till 10. And then 10 o'clock, they move people around. You got all the clubbers come in. And if you're there for the weekend, you'd hang around, And it was always a joke amongst comedians how for 2 hours you were somebody.
Yeah.
Then literally 10 minutes goes by. You're still in the same club, but suddenly you're just a middle-aged man in a club full of kids who just looks a bit pervy, if anything. Do you know what I mean? So you've gone from being
I'm not going to say anything more on that topic. But yeah, okay.
So you've gone from being a somebody to a nobody.
Yeah.
And it's a real juxtaposition of the different emotions, So in that 2 hour period, a bit like great gig, mate, great gig, yeah, women want to come up, selfies, blah blah blah. Then suddenly the changeover, and it's funny because you'd always have some people who stayed from the comedy and stay from the nightclub, and I don't know other comedians, but I'll admit it again because and I would want to be near them. I would want to be so they could see me, so they might say, there's a comedian over there. So all these people that don't know me have just come in and I'm a nobody.
Yeah.
Suddenly, because they'll say, he's a somebody.
Yeah.
So suddenly I'm a somebody again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think that never dies. I think that is in every single walk of life in different formats. So for our kind of line of work, I don't have a dissimilar outlook on it to you. You want to be recognised for doing the right things, no matter what it is that thing is. But, yours might be comedy, presenting, whatever it might be. You want to be recognised for it. But at the same time, if you're, for lack of a better term, a bookworm or more academic, my brother, for example, he's a numbers guy and, he's just risen up the academic ladder of his business, but he's exactly the same.
Yeah,
he's just looking for that constant validation. Difference is he gets a pay rise every time he does it.
Yeah,
we don't.
We just get a
exactly. What's that? An applause. Sorry, my mistake. I didn't know what game you were on there. Because listen, if they compliment you that much, it's a winner. Do you know what I mean? What would you say along the way? You are somebody now, and I know it's difficult to swallow that yourself because we are our own worst critics.
Yeah.
But I believe you are. And I think there's many other people that do. I've seen you live on TikTok. I've seen you live on social media. I've watched your stuff. You headline, I would say, a good 80 to 90% of the shows that I see in Chelmsford and surrounding areas. So what for you has given you do you know what? I think I'm doing all right.
Yeah, that's a good question, isn't it? I think... And I've said this to other comedians, up and coming comedians. There was a point at which because there was a point, even when you start getting paid for it, that you still don't quite believe you are a stand-up comedian, particularly because I had a day job as well. So for many years, I did two things, So I think when I gave up the day job, I think that's when I'm a full-time comedian now. And I've always said to other comedians, I said, you know what, even when you think you're having a bad time, and when you do have a bad time, just remember there's 8 billion people on this planet, right? And of those 8 billion, there are, I don't know, 3,000, I'm just grabbing that, professional comedians, right?
Yeah.
And there's 3,000 out of 8 billion. So on your gravestone or on your epitaph and in your memories, your grandkids, you can say, my dad, there's a picture of my dad there, or sorry, my granddad there, my great-granddad, he was paid to make people laugh. Do you know what I mean? People thought he was so funny that they paid him to do it. And I think that is one heck of a...
100%.
When I'm old and grey there, I can look back and I can think, my life's work. You know, I've done the kids, I've done that, I've done some things. But that is the thing I can say, yeah, I was one of the small percentage that people pay to make people laugh. And I think that's worth its weight in gold.
100%, mate. And I can recognise that. If you're paid for doing what you love, you know, there's me and a friend were chatting the other day. If you do what you love, you never work a day in your life, that old saying. But if you get paid for what you love, that's another world, that, isn't it?
Good, yeah,
that's another world. So, but I don't know you well, but I can tell straight away that you're nowhere near finished. So what's next for you? What's in the line for Gerry K?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I was just about to say, unfortunately, that depends on other people. But in a way, that's a testimony to my perhaps lack of, I was going to say drive, that's not necessarily true, but belief maybe, you know, because some people would sit here and say, yeah, right, I'm going to do this. Michael McIntyre would have answered that back in the day. I am going to do this and I am going to do it because he was so driven. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Whereas me, I still got that element of, I know I'm funny. I know people laugh. Do you know what I mean? Every week I'm making hundreds of people. So I'm not going to stand and say I'm not funny. I am funny because the proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? But there's still that little bit of imposter syndrome. So when you talk about what's next, I think to myself, well, do you know what? I'm a stand-up comedian. That's my job. I'm on the circuit. So that's what's next.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a football manager would say, we play game for game. You know?
Yeah.
When you know they're going to win the title, but they say we take it game for game. And that's kind of how I feel about it. And anything else is a cherry on top, is ice on the cake. I mean, I'm knocking on a bit now as well. And I write, you mentioned writing before. And, you know, I've written a sitcom. No one's seen or anything, but the point is I've written it. I'm in the middle of writing another one. So really, as I get older, I think I'd really want to be recognised for my writing abilities.
Yeah.
Because I think what happens is, as a stand-up, people often judge in the industry, judge you by your stand-up. And my stand-up is a certain kind of style, which is reflective of my personality, I guess. But actually my writing is different. So the sitcom I've written, and
one of my favourite jokes that you did, of many, is that you, in time, if you could explain this to everyone, that'd be great. You've actually turned two women lesbian.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it could be true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where did that come from? That joke. That was it sort of stems, like all my jokes. It always stems from
the truth.
It stems from the truth, and then it sort of. So you've got this bit that's the truth, and you just bolt on. So the truth bit is, because it starts with me talking about Ubering, which is the truth. I did a bit of Ubering just before COVID, and people would always say to me, "Oh, you must have loads of stories," and it really used to annoy me because I used to pick up lots of people, and it annoyed me that I didn't have loads of stories.
Right.
I mean, I always used to, at the end of the, why didn't I take, and one night 2 lesbians got in. Quite attractive lesbians, and they were having a bit of a kiss and a cuddle in the back. So that's kind of how it started.
Right. So you pulled over.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's joking. He's joking.
He's joking. I'm joking.
He's joking.
And,
Just a joke.
so yeah, that's kind of how that bit started. You know, and then obviously goes on as they turn them into because I thought obviously loads of thoughts go through your head, and you know, and you think, oh yeah. I could turn him. You know, obviously I don't mean that. But I was thinking about.
He's joking.
The wife. But then you think, oh God, that's really arrogant. And then that line just came. Oh, into lesbians. And then that's that bit sort of stems from there. But yeah,
I loved it. I think it's fantastic. You can find the full video on YouTube. I think it was on.
Do you know what? I didn't even know that was out there. I think probably that might be on a Ustream then. I think that
something like that. Yeah, it was like a showreel clip created by another agency, another company.
I'd be interested to know where that is because I'm terrible at.
I googled your name. It was the first thing that came up.
Was it really? Because I'm terrible.
Convictions.
No,
but then it was the
told
video.
you not to mention that. No. I'm terrible. It's one thing I do need help with.
Yeah.
Anyone out there is the whole. YouTube, for example, right?
Yeah.
I get very confused about this. So I've got clips on. I think I've got 2 YouTube accounts or something.
Right.
So you search me. There's one account's got loads of stuff on it where I used to do live shows on Facebook during TikTok.
Right.
And I used to just transfer them straight across to YouTube, Facebook and TikTok. Anyway, and the other one's got my stand-up on. I want them both in the same place. So when people search me, I'm never quite sure what they're going to get.
Yeah.
So when you say you saw that bit, I've no idea where that is.
It was nothing to do. It was another. I'll show you
Yeah,
at the end,
yeah,
and
please,
I'll
yeah.
also have a look at your accounts and see what we can do to help.
Oh,
'cause-
mate, if you can,
yeah, of course, mate.
I'd love
Of course,
that,
that's
mate.
not a problem at all.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things that I want to run through with you just before we sort of wrap things up a little bit. The first thing is you created a stand-up set, which I presume can change with seasonally or however often it does, right?
Yeah.
You created this set. You've headlined many shows. You've been, one of the top acts of many shows. There's going to be people out there that are wanting to start in the world of comedy.
Yeah.
What would your best advice be for them?
I think I hate when there's a cliche phrase that I hate when people say "find your voice," but I'm going to use it because it's true. And don't try and be something else. Don't try and be something that you're not. Right? Be you. And if you isn't funny, if you doesn't work on stage, then it's not for you.
Right.
You know? Don't flog a dead horse. I mean, you mentioned at the outset, and as comedians, again, when you now where I am and you get the open spots come in, you will always spot the guy that's funny amongst his mates. You'll always spot him. You know what I mean? So go on stage, die on his ass, but he's been backstage, he's been a really nice guy, he's funny, but you just know he's funny amongst his mates. And what he's done, he's gone on stage and he hasn't prepared well enough because he knows he's a funny geezer. So all he's done is just been him, I just said be yourself, but you got to prepare. You know what I mean? It's the old thing, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Right?
Yeah.
Don't just go on there and think, I'll just riff a bit and I'll be all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's just not going to work. So like everything in life, prepare, absolutely prepare. Have your own voice. Certainly don't try and be someone else's because it's like a fingerprint and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And if it's not for you, don't beat yourself up about it. You know? I mean, that's just me. Other people would say, keep on at it, keep on at it, keep on at it, and you'll get there. Yeah, that might.
Yeah, I guess so. It depends what people want and stuff in life, I think one thing I find is I do believe that it is a organic talent. And like we just said about being funny with your friends, right? The big reason, in my opinion, that a lot of people are funny with their friends and they think they're going to go on to do some stand-up is because you know your friends. You don't know that audience.
Exactly.
So you know that you can say that about his nan. It's all right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever else it might be. But you say that in front of an audience. Oh, I said to my mate the other day about his nan. All right.
Who's he?
Don't care. Who is he?
Exactly, yeah.
There's no personal connection there. So that's the biggest issue. And that's what I found hardest with starting to write this set because I mean, stuff that I would never say on this because I would be cancelled because the comedy is I'm sure you do some stuff that you wouldn't necessarily do at a recorded show, right? And I die of uncontrollable laughter at my own stuff because I'm like, I shouldn't have said that, and it's so funny, but I can't do that in a stand-up show. So it's difficult because
or can you? But you say that because
once.
But people always say oh, nowadays you can't say anything.
True.
And I would argue with that though. That's not entirely true because there are two factions to this. Firstly, it depends on who you are. That's the first thing. Right? Jimmy Carr, Frankie Boyle, Ricky Gervais, Chubby Brown, can say what the fuck they like, actually, and do,
but is that because going all the way back to they are someone?
They are somebody.
Can't do anything wrong.
They are somebody. So, yeah, that's absolutely that. So you can. Some people can. Dialing back on that to somebody just regular. So then you got me, if you like, who's a circuit comedian. I say pretty much what I like. I do hold back slightly just because I'm scared to. But for the most part, I do. I don't feel encumbered really by wokeness, whatever you want to call it. I don't really feel held back by that at all. And the audience know that. It's when you do what you do, but do it with confidence. I think that's a big thing, right? Go balls out. If you've written it, you think it's funny, right? That's the important thing. If it's funny, they'll soon get over themselves. You know what I mean? But go balls out with confidence. So this stuff I'm trying to think of as well as this joke, a little joke I make about.
Go for it.
Well, it's just a little word, just a little bit where I talk about thalidomide, right? But I don't talk about thalidomide. I don't talk about, but I make reference to a thalidomide situation, right? It's just it's just a couple of words in the joke, and I deliver it, and people, you can see they're a bit, like, do you know what I mean? But they're laughing. Laughing simply because it's funny.
That is comedy, though, isn't it?
And there's not much thing as there are victimless jokes, but there's always usually a victim in comedy, right? And I mean, it's a funny story. So I do a thing about Paralympics. And if ever there's a disabled person in the crowd, you can see the other people
Glance.
you look glance at them
Yeah.
to see if it's okay. The disabled person's always pissing themselves, right?
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively speaking.
If someone was going to, it had to be you, didn't it? Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. Regain composure.
But one
hell.
night I'm there and I was doing this gig and there's this guy in the aisle. And this is so funny. Anyway, I've done my stuff. I had a good night, and I'm coming down at the end. I've come off stage. I've walked down the aisle. As I'm coming down, people are high fiving me and sort of just fist bump,
Yeah.
And I'm going, like, hey, I'm loving it. And this guy is in this chair, sort of chair like, and he's like that. So I've like fist pumped him, like bang with it. Like, got to the back of the room, like stood there like that, and I'm looking forwards, and he's like that, right? He was locked in that position, so. He hadn't fist bumped me at all. His arm was his arm was perfect in a fist bump position. I just smashed him in the hand.
Hey, I'll take the adulation. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Keep going. Keep going.
Smashed him in the nuts.
Bang. Poor geezer. No standing ovation, nothing.
Lazy.
Yeah. But that's the funniest stuff, That's what I love,
It is absolutely that. And as I say, the people who are, the butt of the joke, if you like, invariably, it's a joke, right? That's the thing, it is a joke. It's a comedy club. So you're not out on the street. I think that's slightly different. You can't pass something off as banter if you're fucking insulting someone you don't know.
People are paid to see you.
And,
That's the
people
difference.
People are paid for it. Invariably, if they don't know you already, it's adult comedy. They'll realise that, So, I think most people understand and appreciate that, luckily. So you can kind of say... You can say, you can't just go around insulting people. Of course you bloody can't. Do you know what I mean?
Shit.
It's rip.
Yeah. That's that one out the
That's
window.
that career over, yeah. But generally speaking, people know what's wrong. For the most part, people know, if you're out and out, nasty, racist, sexist, homophobic, proper nasty, you can tell the difference. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But most club sets and that, they're not nasty, They touch on those subjects. But they're not, and you should be intelligent enough to know the difference when you walk into a comedy club, I think.
100%. My biggest influence and who I love in comedy is your face. I can't get past it. I was growing up, with The Office, Extras, don't know if you remember that series, all those series. It was my dad that showed me and my brother it, and then we went, just tail end of COVID, we went to see him at the SSE, Wembley SSE, and this is when I knew there was a turning point in comedy, and I'm hoping it's going to carry on. Some of the jokes, which you'll see on his Netflix special, were so crass and so strong that me and my dad and brother were in bits, because we love that pushing a bit. And I'm sure you're the same, right? We walked out, went fantastic, and chatting to other people that are around us. It's brilliant. Yeah, well, that won't be in the DVD. Oh, yeah, that won't be in the DVD.
Wow.
Everything is. Everything is. And you're just like, okay. And then he's got this whole different outlook on, no, it's not offensive. You're offended. Yeah. That's the difference of things, and I think I love it. Next question to you is, who is your biggest influence in comedy? Apart from me.
I honestly don't have one. People often ask me this, and I almost wish I had one, but I think because I didn't want to be, because it was never a dream of mine or anything I wanted to do. So it wasn't like, I don't know, if, for example, you're a musician, let's just say, I'm just plucking that out of the air, and I don't know, you play the guitar, you're a guitarist, and you might look at Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton as your inspiration and think, how they do it, But because I never wanted to do it, it was never a case of, I'm going to look at that comedian, So I was never, I can honestly say, I was never inspired by any comedian. Now I am one. There's the odd comedian that I look at and I think, I envy them their craft because I just can't do. I do what I do and I think I do it well. But there are certain comedians I look at and I love what they do and I envy what they do and wish I could do what they do.
Well, just because they do it so well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll mention there's one guy in particular called Russell Hicks, right? And he's not that well known. I'm guessing
I've not heard of him, no.
And he's brilliant. But what he does is, what he's brilliant at is improv. I did a gig with him a little while ago in Twickenham, and we were on with Rob Brydon.
Right.
Brydon was on, right? And so people went, obviously Rob Brydon, people went to see Rob Brydon. Russell Hicks went on and just slayed the place. Because what he did, literally, there's this place called St Margaret's near Twickenham, right?
Right.
So you got Twickenham, you got St Margaret's. St Margaret's is like a little sort of suburb within Twickenham. and this isn't funny. As I tell you, it's not funny. But somehow he sort of, so it's like, hello, hey, he's American. He's like, where are you from? Where are you from? And someone says, oh yeah, St Margaret's. And he's like, oh, St Margaret's. Of course, you've got is the war still going on between Twickenham and St Margaret's? You know. And I'm like,
he just created a whole situation.
Created the whole thing. He's going, the war between Twickenham and St Margaret's has been going on since the 60s. Man.
Yeah.
And he just creates it. And literally his whole act, he made, in his head, he created, so everyone he spoke to, he'd just go back to the war between, which obviously never existed.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's not me saying it's not funny, but it was hilarious. I mean, he got stand-up, it was brilliant. Fucking genius. And the way he was able, he hadn't pre-written that, you know what I mean? The way he was able to do that. Yeah, my stuff is pre-written. And I don't like to go off it, ideally. Most comedians don't. But he can. He can just go off. And that ability.
Do you think he had anything pre-written? Do you think he just goes out with a structure?
I suspect he had this whole St Margaret's Twickenham idea in his head. I think that was the basis of it. You know what I mean? But from then on, it was all, he was just getting, and I've seen him do other stuff like it. You know, it's just brilliant. Honestly, he could literally sit there, talk to us, and he could make a set just from talking to us, just what wearing, whatever.
I'd like to see that. Make it happen. Get him over.
Get him in here.
Get him around here. We'll get a third person around the table, no problem at all. Do you take any influence from people for your comedy? When I say that, I don't mean. Do you take input of other people's jokes, or are you 100% yourself?
Oh, 100% myself. It's really frowned upon to do that. I mean.
Tried to call you out there, didn't I?
Yeah. I mean, no.
You said. No, I'm joking.
What I will do, and other acts might do it. So. If a joke's in the public domain, then particularly if it's a sketch. So what I will do and have done, if there's a sort of meme or whatever they're called, or a little video or a little sketch, I might take the principle of that joke and turn it into a joke that I can.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's observational comedy to some extent, right?
Just taking a bit of that, and so it's already a joke, but I've changed it around a bit, and it was a visual joke, and I've made it into a vocal joke.
Yeah.
So that's as close as I get to, actually nicking someone else's, if you like.
Of course, yeah. So if people were to, for example, get in contact with you and say they want to write something with you, is that something you'd be interested to do? Or?
Absolutely. I do Mike McLean. I don't know if you know Mike McLean. Mike McLean, when the Big Breakfast came out back in the... was it late 90s, wasn't it, Big Breakfast? He used to do their outside broadcast. You're probably a bit young for that, but
way too young.
Yeah. And then he was like Richard and Judy, so he was a name back in the day. But anyway, so he and I wrote a sitcom together, and I write for him sometimes. But no, if anyone wants, I'm always up for collaboration.
Where can people find you? Whereabouts are you online?
It's
all Gerry K, is it?
So this is the pain in the arse of my name comes in. So my name is Gerry with a G, and the surname is Kyei. Right? So that is by far the best way to find me. You can find all my socials there. So it's Kyei, Gerry with a G. However, my performing name is Gerry K, just the initial K. And the reason for that is that my surname, Kyei, is pronounced Che. Right. Obviously, no one would know that unless you're Ghanaian.
You told me earlier on and I said it wrong still.
Yeah, straight. Yeah, that's it, yeah. So you didn't know that. So that's why I just used the K. I thought it'd be easier.
Yeah.
But the pain in the neck is then all my stuff is under my full name. So, so I almost wish I'd never done that. But anyway, so you find me under my full name, Gerry Che. If you struggle to remember the name, then Gerry K, you will eventually find Gerry Che. You know I'm not too difficult to find. Ent24.com is where I keep my diary.
Yeah.
www.ent24.com.
Cool.
Gerry K, then
we'll link everything below this as well.
Sorry?
We'll link everything below the video so everyone can see it and check you out. I think it's great that people will do, and if they haven't seen you already, to come and check you out. And there's one final thing I'd like to ask of you. You won't know about this just yet, but this is the Dash book. Okay. The Dash book, I'll just read to you simply, is basically a book in which we'd like you to write in either a question or a quote or something you live by, a statement, whatever it might be. This isn't something that you're going to have to do publicly on this video right now. It will be shared with everyone later on down the line. But right, before I go, I'll let you grab hold of the book and you do your thing. But yeah, Gerry, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. We'll definitely have you on again in the near future, and make sure you check him out. He'll be again very soon.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Cheers.